Hello and welcome to the Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. So, Peter, we had all worked under the assumption that Trump, upon assuming the presidency, will relaunch his maximum pressure campaign against Iran. I mean, he surrounded himself with ardent Zionist, Iranophobes, and given the intense feelings that he had towards Iran during his first term, we kind of say, well, obviously, now, particularly as Iran has been considerably weakened following the war in Gaza, Israel's campaign against Hezbollah, and particularly the fall of Bashar al-Assad in Syria, now would be the right time to launch this campaign against Iran. But surprisingly, Trump hasn't done that. And his first act, which was a little surprising, was the dismissal of Brian Hook. So people say, well, who's Brian Hook? Well, Brian Hook was kind of handling Iran during his first term, particularly during the maximum pressure
He's a
campaign.
big wheel, everyone. He's a
Very big
big
wheel,
wheel.
very, very big wheel. And he was also head of the transition, the State Department transition team during the interregnum between the election and the Trump assuming the presidency. So he's gone, and that was a little surprising. No real explanation was offered as to
And I
why.
wonder who was behind that. I have no idea.
Very, very interesting. And his place, at least to the extent that there's a replacement, but his replacement so far is Steve Witkoff. That he's
Interesting.
this real estate guy, a friend of Trump's, and he was the one who famously applied the pressure against Netanyahu to cut the deal, to cut the ceasefire hostages deal in Gaza. He's the one who arrived in Israel on the Sabbath, which apparently you can't possibly do, and demanded to see Netanyahu. And he was told, hey, but this is the Sabbath. And he said, I don't care whether it's the Sabbath, it's time to meet. And lo and behold, he got the meeting. But anyway, so Witkoff has taken charge. And so here's a story from the Financial Times um, about this position. And he says, well, this is the FT saying, Donald Trump to put Steve Witkoff in charge of Iran file, and then Middle East envoy expected to take lead in addressing U.S. concerns over Tehran's nuclear program. Again, a little surprising. We thought Brian Hook, again, very, very hawkish. But no, it's going to be Steve Witkoff, who, again, he doesn't have a background. He's not somebody who was part of the
Exactly,
neocon
George.
diplomat world, in the way Brian Hook was.
And I think FT is putting an accent where it doesn't belong over Tehran's nuclear program. I think it's
Oh,
much bigger than that.
right, right. Um, and then says
Dare I say, diplomacy could be involved.
exactly, and it says Donald Trump is to put his Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff in charge of addressing Washington's concerns of Iran, suggesting the U.S. president is willing to test diplomacy before ramping up pressure on Tehran. Witkoff, a real estate investor who played a pivotal role in securing the Gaza ceasefire, is expected to spearhead efforts on Iran's nuclear program as part of a broader Trump remit to stop the wars in the region.
And the only way that's going to happen is if diplomacy is used.
That's right. And then says during the transition, Trump's team drew up possible measures to reinstate his maximum pressure campaign on Iran through fresh sanctions or stricter policing of current measures. But Trump and his aides have telegraphed in early meetings that they want to keep open a path to avoiding a broader confrontation with Iran.
Which Iran's recently elected president has said exactly the same thing.
That's right, exactly. That's why I think it's significant, because the Iran's president has said that they're very much open to negotiations. Some Trump officials have told foreign diplomats and colleagues that they expect Witkoff to lead efforts to see whether a diplomatic accommodation is possible. And then Witkoff's principal focus will remain the implementation of the Gaza ceasefire. Trump has also tapped Morgan Ortagus, a State Department spokesperson in the first term with experience serving in the Middle East, to be Witkoff's deputy. Now, Morgan Ortagus,
I
she's,
think it's Ortagus.
is that how you do it?
Yeah,
Ortagus. Well, anyway, Ortagus.
yeah,
All right.
because she was on Fox News all the
She's
time.
always on Fox News. She's a Fox News contributor and is absolutely rabid. She's a rabid
And she's a
book. Russia, whatever the thing, that's her thing. Now, during his Trump's first term, she was the spokesperson for Mike Pompeo. Now, we were under the impression that the relations between Trump and Pompeo were close, but in fact, Trump early on said Pompeo will be playing no role in my administration. Now, recently, he seems to have withdrawn security protection as well from Pompeo, so it doesn't seem like Pompeo is much in favor. And interestingly, this was the truth that Trump sent out after he appointed Ortagus as Witkoff's number two. Let's take a look what he said. I am
I'd like
pleased.
before George, you say that, I'd like to invoke something. I know it's not politically correct, and I'll get lots of arrows coming my way, but he likes pretty women around him.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Go ahead.
But he says here, I am pleased to announce Morgan Ortagus as Deputy Special Presidential Envoy for Middle East Peace to the Honorable Stephen Witkoff. Early on, Morgan fought me for 3 years, but hopefully has learned her lesson.
Ouch, ouch.
These things usually don't work out, but she has strong Republican support. And I'm not doing this for me, I'm doing it for them. I mean, imagine you're appointing somebody to a position and said, well, she fought me all the time, doesn't work out. It wasn't my idea to appoint her to this position, but, she has fans among Republicans. So, I'll appoint her. Let's see what happens. So, I mean, basically, I'm already not exactly enthusiastic. First sign that this isn't working out, she's gone. Let's see what happens. She will hopefully be an asset to Steve, a great leader and talent, as we seek to bring calm and prosperity to a very troubled region. I expect great results and soon. Again, he's talking her down. She's going to be an asset for Steve.
I've never seen anything like this before, ever. Okay. But what is interesting to me, why is Morgan still on his radar?
I don't know.
Why is she on the radar? It's because of Fox News.
Yeah.
Another television personality. She has nothing interesting to say whatsoever beyond the most banal platitudes.
Right.
Now, what's really interesting about this truth, he mentions Steve, okay, Witkoff. Well, we don't know a lot about him, but we do know what he's known for, and not for real estate, because we're not in the real estate business. He's known for his involvement in one form or another in getting that so-called ceasefire.
Right.
What it tells me, I don't care what Morgan Ortagus is part of this or not. Trump seems to have a lot of confidence in Steve Witkoff, and he saw results,
right,
and he wants more results.
Right.
And unlike all of these other policy wonk players, they're brand hawks, and they're Middle East experts, and all of that. We always hear this nonsense.
Right.
Stephen Witkoff is a enforcer. That's what he is. Right. He doesn't look what he has to say. He doesn't have a lot to say about policy. He doesn't wax on about things. The boss wants this.
Right.
And that's what he does. If he has Morgan Ortagus on his arm, it means nothing.
Right.
He's the type of guy who will say, carry my suitcase.
right,
carry my briefcase. Okay.
right.
So this is very interesting. I've never seen an appointment like this.
Right, exactly. So he has the appointment to say, "Hey, I didn't really want to appoint you, but you seem to have all this support among Republicans, and okay, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for them. I'm doing this as a favor for them. And then, well, let's see what happens. I mean, we talk about damning with faint praise. This isn't even faint praise. I mean, it's like, well, I don't want. But the fact is, obviously, Steve is the boss. And you might do something useful, you might not. I mean, the moment Steve wants you gone, you're gone. So it's and yet she responded, "Oh, thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm really greatly honored by this appointment." Um, but she obviously is a rabid kind of hawk on all sorts of things. I think she was it. I think she converted to Judaism. I think she
Oh,
did it in Saudi Arabia. I think that she went to Saudi Arabia and converted to Judaism, or something along those
I
lines.
don't know if you can do that in
I don't
Saudi
think
Arabia.
so. But it was I don't. It was somewhere that she did this. Maybe it was in the United Arab Emirates. But I remember reading something like that. She converted to Judaism in some place which was very unlikely. Um, and this is so. If he had appointed her to this position, then we would know which direction he's going to go. But nonetheless, he's appointed Witkoff. Anyway, it goes on this back to the Financial Times. U.S. officials say the full outlines of Trump's approach to Tehran and Witkoff's remit remain in flux, but some of the U.S. president's recent appointments have established a camp in the administration that would consider negotiating with Iran and is skeptical of a strike on its nuclear program, which Iran hawks in both U.S. and Israeli governments have advocated. And again, he himself had advocated this. So this is a change, very much a change in tone
It,
from the position he took even during the campaign when he was advocating that Israel should indeed should attack Iran's nuclear program.
maybe one day we'll find out. Maybe we'll never find out. But the first thing that comes to my mind when I see these things, did Trump really take the time and listen to Jeffrey Sachs's presentation? That's a serious question,
Right,
because George is absolutely right. Where do we get maximum pressure? I mean, it's Trump 45.
right,
Okay, so something's going on here.
right. Yeah,
Something.
no, that's right. And then he goes on. Michael Domino, Trump's new top Middle East officials at the Pentagon, was a former CIA official who advocated restraint in dealing with Tehran at a Koch funded think tank. Elbridge Colby, Trump's nominee for Undersecretary of Defense or Policy, has cautioned against any military action against Iran.
Is Trump siloing this?
Yeah.
It looks like there's a silo here.
Right.
It's separate from others. Okay, the Israelis have to be bristling right now.
Right. No, that's exactly right. Because it says others in Trump's foreign policy team have taken a more hawkish approach, including Mike Waltz and Marco Rubio. During his confirmation hearing, Rubio said he supported any arrangement that allows us to have safety and stability in the region, but one in which we're clear eyed. And then he has a quote: Witkoff's potential stewardship of Iran issues has alarmed some Iran hawks in Congress. So some Iran hawks in Congress are alarmed, and elsewhere in Washington, who worry he will be too quick to drop pressure on Iran in seeking a possible deal.
Oh
Imagine they're
yeah,
worrying that he'll be too quick to drop pressure on Iran in seeking a possible deal.
they're worried that he might use the D word, diplomacy.
Right, but obviously there's clearly serious alarm. I mean, the fact that the FD already has some quotes from people in Congress saying we're not happy. That's not kind of what we signed on to.
And the Trump presidency is less than 100 hours old.
Exactly. And then there's a quote here. He's already lifting pressure on Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran, and in the process, abandoning American hostages and endangering Israel,
Oh,
said a senior Republican congressional staffer.
I'm
He
sure
keeps
he.
saying he knows what Trump wants, but he doesn't understand what Trump believes. So, all right. This is just an interesting. We want to take note of it. We don't want to jump to too many conclusions. One swallow doesn't make summer, but it's an interesting development. It's not exactly what we had expected. We may return to the maximum pressure campaign, but nonetheless, Trump seems to have decided to go down a different path with Iran, and who knows where that's going to go. But I think Steve Witkoff, he's someone to watch. I mean, he's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
much a pragmatist. He's not at all a kind of the fanatic that one might have expected.
What's interesting here, considering our two videos that dealt with Ukraine, and now we have this, is there seems to be an attempt, at least initially, um, to say what we have been doing is that
Right,
garnering dividends. Is it
right,
working?
right,
And it seems to me that's obviously something really positive.
right,
Um, Again, when he was 45, he saw how the defense people, intelligence people, the State
right,
Department, how they treated him.
right,
That's got to be in the back of his mind
right.
all the time. Steve Witkoff, who the hell is that? Okay,
Exactly.
who the hell is that?
Yeah,
Trump, what he did is he plucked him out of a world that he understands and
that's
put him into his new current world.
right,
Okay.
right.
And my feeling is this guy is like such an enforcer. Well, that's not what the president said. Okay,
Right.
Morgan, that's not what the president
That's
said.
right. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, hold my
It,
briefcase. Okay.
that's right. And I think this, the appointment of Morgan Ortagus then begins to make sense. He's sort of, hey, I'm going to try and change policy, but I need to have somebody here at least to keep Republicans and Zionists happy. So I'm going to shove her in as the number two. But even as I do so, I say, hey, it's not my idea. I don't particularly want her here. I didn't particularly think much of her during the first term, but okay, let's see how it works out. Let's hope she doesn't get in the way of what we're trying to do. So I think it's very interesting, and we're going to have to watch this. But at least our initial pessimistic assumption, the return of the maximum pressure campaign hasn't been realized as yet.
Yeah, I think that Trump, reflecting upon what happened to him in his first term, is that he doesn't want preordained outcomes in policies. He's not accepting that.
Right.
He's not accepting it, and we can spread that out to, like, opening up the files of JFK and Martin Luther King and stuff like that. But what he's showing that he is in charge, and he's making sure people
Right.
know he's in
Right.
charge.
Right.
When it comes to someone like Marco Rubio, do you think that Trump's main assistant or whatever calls Marco Rubio up in the middle of the night? He wants you here in 10 minutes. He'll
Right.
be there in 10
Yeah.
minutes
Yeah.
in his pajamas.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. And
Okay.
again, as
And
we've
and,
said,
and, and but the president said this, and we're going to do that. Of course we'll do that. Yeah, 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 yeah,
that's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
And
Let me
again,
let me pucker up and
that's
kiss
right.
his ass.
That's right.
Okay.
And as we've said, where is Marco Rubio? I mean, it's since November the 5th, and he was one of the earliest appointments. I think he was appointed really within, I don't know, 24, 48 hours of the election. I mean, he's kind of almost vanished. I mean, it's like he doesn't seem to be saying have anything to say about anything. He's the
Well, no, no,
Secretary of
no.
State. He's that.
His first first appointment is Panama.
Yeah,
If I were a Secretary of State under Donald Trump and you told me go to Panama, that should tell you what he really thinks about
right.
you.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
little Marco. Okay, you're getting a little job.
That's
Okay,
right. That's exactly
and
right. And that,
this
yeah,
plays into what George and I have said
right,
repeatedly, is that what Trump wants is to smooth the skids with the base and with House Republicans. That's what he wants.
but again, he's going back to a tradition, I think, of presidents who really, basically they put the Secretary of State, okay, you handle diplomacy, all the day-to-day diplomacy, which is what the State Department's supposed to do, but policy, you leave the policy to us. I mean, it's like, Kennedy. I mean, if you would ask, who was Kennedy's Secretary of State? I mean, people would scratch their heads. Who was the Secretary? Dean Rusk. And say, well, who the hell's Dean Rusk? But it was Dean Rusk, and he was there through the Kennedy and Johnson years. I think he pretty much really was there to the bitter end with Johnson. No one remembers him, which again shows how little the Secretary of State had. And again, with Nixon, we had Bill Rogers, who was, Nixon's old friend, but again, he's largely
only
forgotten.
George and I remember him. Okay?
Exactly. That's right. So Trump seems to be going down this path. Hey, policy is set in the White House, and the Secretary of State. You do all the day-to-day diplomacy. That's your job, but you don't do policy. And I think that's why really Marco Rubio has just sort of vanished. I mean, he's not doing anything.
I don't. My suspicion is that we're not going to hear a lot more from Keith Kellogg. Just my gut telling me right now.
Right.
Is Trump's going to say, I don't understand what this guy is saying. I don't know how it's a win. How do I get out of this? It was not my war. Steve Bannon is saying it's going to turn into my Vietnam.
Right.
And he's going to turn to somebody else and say, what the hell was going on here? All right, can you get me the numbers straight? Okay. Tulsi Gabbard, if she makes it through, which I'm still skeptical of, probably would give him the numbers. Okay. But this Witkoff thing is really tantalizing to me because he's saying, no, it's going to be siloed in the White House.
Right. Yep. No, that's right. And again, Biden failed. Biden could have made an alteration. He promised, we're going to change the Trump policy we're going to change the maximum pressure campaign, but he failed. He promised to return to the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. He didn't. So it was a complete waste of time. It was a total failure. All those negotiations that they held to return to the JCPOA, it never happened. So at least, Trump has now gone back and it seems like he's going to take seriously some kind of a negotiated outcome. Chances are, again, as with Ukraine, maybe it's not going to work. Maybe. But at least there's some effort rather than the maniacal kind of let's get tough. Let's apply the pressure. Let's impose more sanctions, which you might have expected. But it's a relief that that's not the first resort.
Well, and also Witkoff's statement, and this one made it into the mainstream, is that he seems pretty adamant that he wants to visit Gaza.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. That's something the Israelis are not going to be happy about.
Not
okay?
sure. No.
And he'll say, I want to go on the Sabbath. I don't care what you say. Okay. No, look, everybody, George and I, the last thing we want to do is make too much of this. Right. Okay.
Right.
But it's countervailing to what a lot of us thought. So
yeah, it's kind of and Senator, one also has to say this thing about the Sabbath. I mean, if Witkoff said this, I don't care the Sabbath. You got to, basically Trump wants this meeting to take place. It's reasonable. I mean, imagine you go to a country and say, it's Sunday, or Sunday is my day of rest. I can't possibly meet you. No one's going to take you seriously. I mean, Sunday, hey, it's a work day. I mean, we're dealing with, high matters of state. You're not going to just take Sunday off. So that whole notion, I think, obviously irritated Witkoff to say, it's a Sabbath, so I can't possibly meet anyone. So yeah, I think that's a nice, briskly refreshing approach.
Yeah, I think Trump feels that he was so burned by so many people that he appointed in his first term that I think he's exerting himself.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And everyone, when you're on the campaign trail, you can say just about anything. Okay, they're eating cats and dogs. Okay, all this, But when you're in the Oval Office, it's a very different kettle of fish, and Trump knows that people have the knives out for him. Okay, is he acting preemptively? I don't know. I would.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, everybody. To be continued. I guess all we can say.
We'll see.
To be continued. All right, this is the Gaggle with Peter and George. We're on Local, so please go to the gaggle.locals.com. I'm waiting for the dogs to come around. That's our wrap for, today for Friday. We're going to reconvene on Sunday, and we'll do a live stream on Monday.
Exactly. Monday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. And then Tuesday, I do my solo Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. In the meantime, the dogs are growling and in a very menacing way. It's almost like you're somewhere in Africa and the wild dogs are getting hungry. So, you don't want to mess with wild dogs and you don't want to mess with these chihuahuas when the issue of the tip jar comes up. So if you have any money lying around, any money that you have no use for, into the tip jar, let them calm down. We really don't want wild dogs around. So we're very grateful for all of your help, friendship, and support. Wow, he looks like a wild dog. We're very grateful for all of your help, friendship, and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, and the more we can improve on the technology. And above all, we're going to get, calm, happy, peaceful, and prosperous dogs. So remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye bye.